Hi everyone. Now this is Jenny, who did a golf school with me quite a few years ago. And Jenny is really typical of someone who's doing a lot right, but doing a few little things wrong that can make a lot of difference to your consistency. Now also too, when you're just standing on a practice fairway hitting a few shots, it's a lot easier to kind of compensate for your little faults, as opposed to when you're out on the course under pressure, things tend to get accentuated. So if you've got a bit of a fault there, it might not be that bad when you're practicing, but it might be really problematic when you're under pressure. So let's just go through Jenny's swing here. Now her setup is looking really pretty good. This is a pitch shot, so her stance would usually be a little bit wider than that. But that's okay, that little tiny one, for a very small sort of chip and run shot. But for a pitch shot, you need a bit better balance. So go sort of another 6 inches on either side there, I would say. Just give you a bit more ability to balance as the club starts to move back. You also want your weight a little bit on the front foot when you're doing short shots, less than a full swing. And she looks a bit centered, I would think. It's a bit hard to say, but generally speaking, looks a bit centered. I'd also like to see her pop the club right behind the ball to start with, rather than starting behind, like away from the ball. That's just a personal preference of mine, but it doesn't make that much difference. Okay, now she's taken the club back away here. Now, as you can see, there's not quite enough wrist break on the backswing here. Now, when you're pitching, adding a little bit of wrist in that left wrist, sort of creating that wide V shape, is going to add height onto your shots. When you're just doing a tiny little chip and run shot, you don't need much wrist at all, so you can get away with it because it's coming out low and running. But as the swing gets a bit longer, like it is here, you need to allow the wrists to break just in the natural way they would, to get the club head then coming down below the ball, down into the back of the ball and underneath the ball, which will then lift the ball up. So she needs a little bit more softness in that left wrist here, creating that wider V. That's going to give her more height on her shots. Now the impact looks reasonably good, except for the weight. It looks to me like it's coming back slightly onto the back foot there. And it should be more on the front. We'd be able to tell that a bit better if the width of the stance was a little bit more correct. But it's not too bad here in terms of impact. She's kept it pretty straight down the left arm and down the club. So I would give her sort of an 8 or a 9 out of 10 for impact here. I would prefer the weight to be a little bit more onto the front foot at this point. And also what I'd like to see is a little bit more body rotation. You can see here that she's very straight on in terms of, if you're looking at us, her body is facing us. Now through impact, your body should be starting to turn a little bit, and what that does is allows the extension that you need through the shot. So you'll see that on the next frame here, that if her top half was just turning through a little bit better, the weight would also then be naturally moving more onto the front, but it would allow her to extend through the shot and not scoop. And what you'll see in the next frame is that she does end up scooping a little bit, which is going to cause her a little bit of inconsistency, especially under pressure, as I was mentioning earlier on. So here's our next frame. You can see that she's just broken the left leading wrist there, because the body's not turning through very well and the weight's hanging back onto that back foot a little bit there too. So ideally here you'd want to be having your weight a little bit more onto the front. You'd be turning through a bit more, and you'd have less break in that leading wrist and more of a straight Y shape coming through. So if the body turns through the shot, not only will your weight go through onto the front foot, but you'll also get this great solid extension, which is going to give you consistency. You want that, 100 times out of 100, you're going to be lifting the ball up onto the green, and then it's just a matter of judging the distance and how close can you get the ball to the hole, and where am I landing this. So your focus goes off connecting and lifting the ball and onto how close can I get this shot, which is, a whole new level, as it were. So as I said with Jenny, a lot going right, but a few little things that are going to cause her some inconsistency when she's under a little bit of pressure. So we'll give her a 9 out of 10, but there's a few small things that could make a really big difference to her consistency. So thanks for letting us watch your swing video here, Jenny. And if anybody is interested in coming along to a short game intensive day or a 3 or 4 day golf school, the links are in the description of the video. See you soon.